And I'm Danielle.
And we're Escazú Chocolates.
Welcome to our tasting.
All right, everybody, let's jump in and eat some chocolate. In your kit, you're gonna have a wrapped chocolate tile. Go ahead and get that out and open it up. This is our calibration tile.
The calibration is what we're going to do in order to get our palates ready for our tasting. So enjoy this chocolate while we'll tell you a little bit about it.
Let's start with what happens on the farm before we ever receive the cacao. Danielle, do you want to tell us a little bit about where cacao grows?
Yeah, absolutely. Cacao grows 20 degrees north or south of the equator, and that is called the cacao belt. So places in Latin America, Africa, and some places in Asia.
And it grows kind of different from other fruit, right?
A little bit, yeah. And I love it because you'll see how it grows off the trunk of the trees, and it's these trunks just filled with fruit and then some in the branches, but it's very cool to see that. Yeah.
And I remember us tasting cacao at Escazú. It had a really unexpected flavor, but it looked like a tropical fruit. Like it reminded me of mango.
Absolutely. So it looks, the outside of it it's very brightly colored, yellows, oranges, greens, reds, depending on the type of cacao. It'll also have different textures, which is very cool. And then when you open it up, it does have that very tropical, like passion fruit, banana, lychee kind of aroma to it.
But it looks like a white corn on the cob.
It does. It looks a little weird, just a little weird. And that is absolutely the best way to describe it. Giant corn on the cob that is white.
So most people probably haven't had cacao fruit or seen it in the stores because it's very perishable. So the harvesting that happens at the farm is interesting as well, right?
Correct. So immediately after harvesting, like no more than 2 days, all those pods get opened up and all that weird looking corn on the cob stuff goes into these big fermentation boxes. And they're just big wooden boxes where all that stuff gets just thrown in. And that white stuff that is very fruity and fragrant, the thing that makes it smell tropical is what's going to give most chocolates is like fruity characteristics, right? And that is because that fruit during the fermentation process, because of temperature and all of these agents, it's just going to disintegrate. And after 5 to 10 days, we're going to be left with just the beans. Which is very cool.
Which is very cool.
Yeah.
But even then, it's not over. They do so much at the farm.
Yeah.
Because they have, one of my favorite things that you have pictures of are these amazing drying patios. Because obviously after they are fermented and all of that juiciness comes off, they're still really sticky, but they need to become shelf stable so that they can ship it and it doesn't get all moldy and gross. And so they have these gigantic drying patios.
Very cool.
And a lot of places will sun dry them, which I think is beautiful. Some of them have it covered so that it's a little bit less weather dependent, but they'll let them dry so that all that sticky residue kind of dries off, and then they can package them up to ship them to us in Raleigh. And after that, we start our process. Once those beans make their way to Raleigh, our first step in the process is hand sorting them. What we do is we will pour a scoop of beans on a table and pick through them with our hands, looking for anything that isn't a perfect bean, because cacao, as we mentioned, it grows, it's natural, sometimes it's imperfect. And we're just using this step of the process to make sure that we're only moving forward with perfect beans and also not letting anything that isn't a bean, or maybe is a little bit of treasure, gets portioned out too. And after we have perfect beans, about 300-ish pounds of it, we'll move on to the next step in the process, which is roasting.
Yeah, so we have these anywhere between 150 to 300 pounds that we throw into our antique ball roaster, who we call Lady Godiva. And it's really cool. It roasts low and slow, which we like, but we do every roast different for each origin. So we roast one origin at a time. And then we also, there's so many factors that can affect how we roast. So the time is going to be different depending on the harvest, depending on the weather, right? And depending on the origin as well. And then once we roast it, we completely cool it down, and then we move on to the next part.
The next step in the process is winnowing. And that's a process by which we're gonna separate out the papery outer shell of the cocoa bean from the meaty interior, which is called the nib. And the nib can be an end product in itself. You may have eaten it in granola or cookies or maybe a smoothie, but we're gonna take about 99% of our nibs and turn them into chocolate. And we do that with our grinders.
So once we get to our grinders, which we have 2 of them, and they both have names, we name all of our machines. They are 2 stone wheels with a stone base, and we add our nibs in. Now, keep in mind that cacao is about 50% of it is fat, which we call cocoa butter. And during this grinding process, that fat is going to be released and mixed in with the solids, therefore making chocolate. So we could potentially have chocolate pretty much then,
with
right?
just nibs.
Exactly.
100%.
100%, or cacao liquor, technically. However, we add the sugar, right? Once we have all of our cacao liquor, we add our sugar, and then we grind it for about 3 to 4 days.
And this is where the percentage of that you see on your bars comes in.
So if you wonder sometimes, like, what is this percentage thing? 65, 80, what does that mean? It means that 60% or 65 or 80% of your chocolate is cacao. The rest is going to be sugar, or in the case of milk chocolate, it will be milk and sugar. When we roast it, we roast one origin at a time, right? But when we are grinding, we'll either grind one origin at a time so that we can achieve our single origins, or we will put several origins in the grinder so that we can make our blends. It helps us kind of get a consistent chocolate flavor, and we use that mostly for our bars with inclusions and for our confections. That way we have a base flavor that we can just enhance with. It can make all the other flavors that we're going to put in shine. And then so once we have that chocolate, after it's ground for 3 to 4 days, we finally pour it out. We put it through a sifter to make sure that it's super smooth, and then we pour it out into these like big chunky blocks that you just want to eat. And then we let it set and just get all of those flavors come together and be beautiful for our next step. When the chocolate comes out of the grinders, it's untempered. You may have seen untempered chocolate at your house if you've ever had a bar that melted and then re-solidified. Untempered chocolate is crumbly, it can feel a little dry in your mouth, and on the outside it might have some white streaks or some sugar crystals. For us to get our chocolate into its finished product form, it needs to go through another process called tempering. Now, did you hear that? That is the sound of a really good tempered chocolate. Now, tempering is the process by which, through agitation and temperature, all the fat and sugar crystals are going to align and be so small that it will create a shiny, snappy chocolate the way we like it and the way you like it. And then once we have it tempered, we will go pour into our mold by pouring it into bars, or when we do our confections, we pour it in. But anytime that you want shiny, snappy chocolate that is going to melt smoothly in your mouth, you have to temper it.
And then once we have all those finished products, the next step is to package it up, which again we do
by hand.
All by hand.
Yep.
And then once those beautiful things are in beautiful temper, in beautiful packaging, they make their way to you guys. It's time to taste chocolate. Danielle, would you mind giving us a little overview on how to properly taste chocolate?
Absolutely. And okay, so to taste chocolate, first you want to smell it, if you want to though, but why wouldn't you? And then we're gonna do a little snap to make sure that it's tempered properly. If you have a nice crisp snap, it was a good temper. And if it's a little dull, maybe it wasn't a good temper, or benefit of the doubt always, maybe it got a little too hot somewhere and it just fell out of temper. not to worry, still delicious. So once we have it, we're gonna take
One bite.
one piece and we're just gonna swirl it. You don't have to worry about thinking because we all know we wanna eat chocolate right away. You're just gonna eat it, bring your palate to chocolate again, in this case to specific chocolate that we're gonna be tasting. And then your second bite, that's the one that you're going to study, you're gonna think about. Now, when it's time to start thinking about those flavors, we have this very cool flavor wheel.
Which is great.
It's
Because
really good.
Sometimes you have a flavor
At the tip of your tongue.
and you can't put a name to it, which happens to me all the time. I'm like, I recognize this, but I don't know what to call it. And this wheel kind of helps you with that.
It really does. So you can look at it beforehand because sometimes there are flavors that you don't even think about and you're like, of course. And then you can also look at it as you're tasting and sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, this feels familiar. And it doesn't have to be that, it can be something else. And to me, or to us, to you, sometimes a flavor, it's not even a flavor, it's an experience, it's a memory. And a lot of times I'll taste something and be like, oh my gosh, it tastes like that time I was at the beach with my friend. And it's like a whole experience that you're tasting. So tasting, you can taste flavors, or you can taste a memory, or you can taste an experience, or a feeling even.
Yeah.
And we always like to say there is no wrong answer because you taste what you taste and you like what you like.
The tasting wheel is to help you put some words to things, but it is in no way all inclusive for what could be what you taste in your chocolate.
And we will walk you through when we change to each bar. We're going to tell you what to do. So we're going to drink a little bit of water to kind of cleanse our palate from that particular bar. And then we're going to do the calibration with that particular chocolate right before we start studying it. So
I'm excited.
let's do it. Okay, are we ready to taste some chocolate?
It's time.
It is time. However, if you've had anything else besides chocolate between your calibration round and now, take a little sip of water, make sure that our mouth is ready for chocolate again.
I'm so excited.
I'm very excited.
Can you get the chocolate?
Where is it? I thought we had it right here.
I put it right behind. I put it
Behind me? Why would you put it behind?
It's right there.
Oh, it's with the flowers.
I told you. I don't know. Maybe I hit it.
And it's Merida.
Beautiful.
This is, to me, such a special bar. It's been rare for us to work with beans from the Andes, and this is from Merida in Venezuela, which is in the Andes region, and it's so beautiful there, and I love it so much. And people are so nice in Merida. Yeah, let's get ready to taste. It's 70%,
Yep.
so it's just perfect for this chocolate, for this origin.
Our first bite. We're just gonna
Calibrate our palate to Merida, okay? Let's do it. Oh,
I can't wait to
I need to
think about it.
Yeah. Okay.
So this next piece, you're gonna think about.
And
put
we're
it in
gonna
your
think
mouth,
about it.
Take one bite and then let it melt. We're gonna cut to a small break, but if you need more time, pause the video and we'll see you when you get back. There's just
It is so good.
so much going on. I feel like in this one, you get a lot of warmth.
A
Our
lot of
tasting
warmth.
notes were like cinnamon.
Cinnamon, which I just said in the in this region of Venezuela, since it's in the Andes and it's cold, we have a drink called canelazo. Canela is cinnamon in Spanish, and I was like tasting. I was like, oh man, it tastes like canelazo, and you're like all wrapped up and cozy.
That is
so
what
good.
this chocolate tastes like. It's cozy.
It's cozy.
It has a coziness to it. It's amazing. It
So
also has a little bit of that kind of like fruitiness, like fig
Yep.
Newton maybe, because there is definitely a little like graininess to it, like puffed brown rice.
Yeah, it does have a little bit of
Toastiness.
maybe like cake like.
Ooh, yeah.
Like a honey cake, like characteristic.
Yeah. Really good.
It's so good.
It's going to be fun to compare this to our next chocolate.
It will be very different. So good. Okay.
Hey. Hi. Yeah, welcome.
You ready?
Yeah.
Where's the chocolate? I thought you had it.
Oh. I do.
There it is. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So exciting.
We're ready for the next one now.
Oco Caribe, Dominican
Super exciting.
Republic, 75%. Since we work mostly with not mostly, we work exclusively with Latin American beans. And since I'm from Venezuela, we use a lot of Venezuelan beans. However, this Dominican Republic origin is
Super special.
super special, delicious. We are very excited to share it with you. It comes from a semi-mountainous region in Dominican Republic, close to the capital. And I think we should just dig in, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, let's take some water first.
yes, very important. Since we're coming from a completely different region in lower percentage, and we want to take a little sip of water, rinse your palate before you calibrate it to Oco Caribe, okay?
It's ready to put our thinking caps on.
Ready.
Let's do our second piece. We're going to go to a short break, but if you need a little bit more time, feel free to pause the video and we'll see you when you get back. Wow. It's always also crazy to me. You know, you think you're getting a dark chocolate, they're about the same percentage, and you're like, it's the same thing. And these two are
So different.
This one was like a whole dessert. It was like,
Absolutely.
it was like multiple
fruit
desserts in
dessert.
one. Yes. So good. I tasted like, we wrote down olive oil cake because you get that fruity grassiness of olive oil, but also the sweetness and that kind of just like
A little bit of almond.
baked almond, frangipane, and orange.
like frangipane.
Yeah.
Like tart.
Yeah. And then also maybe like a little cereal and wafer cookie.
Yep.
Because it's got all of that kind of light crispiness, toastiness.
You know those wafer cookies with
Yeah.
cream? It's like an orange almond
Oh,
wafer
yes. Yes.
cookie? Yeah.
Yes.
But it is, notice how it's like brighter and fruitier than the Merida that we were having.
Yeah.
They're just so different.
So different. And they're both sort of mountainous. I think sometimes people are like, oh, well, the mountains and the plains would taste the same. But honestly,
No,
there's really nothing that is standard.
there's nothing standard.
Every single origin, whether it shares a little bit of a geographic a similarity to another origin, is still going to taste completely different.
Completely
We have
different.
origins, we've had origins that are like a stone's throw from each other that
Taste completely
a world
different.
apart.
Yeah.
So it's fun to know the geography, but it doesn't always give you the answers.
Not really.
You just gotta taste it.
It's mostly about terroir and also the harvest.
Yeah, the harvest
Sometimes
a lot.
it'll taste different, but for the most part, terroir. Just think of wine and coffee.
Yeah.
Pretty much same thing.
Awesome.
All right, ready for the next one?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, you ready for the next one?
Yes.
Where is it?
I gave it to you. Right?
You did?
I think so.
I don't think so.
I think I did.
Oh, hold on, I see something.
What? When did you become a magician?
Just now.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So 80%.
80%.
Caranero, and
From
we
the
are going
magician's
back
hands.
to Venezuela.
Yay.
Right? So 80%, it's what some people would consider high percentage, and maybe a little bit too much.
A lot of people, I think, would say that 80% is outside of their comfort range, but also there's a lot of people who are like, I don't like anything sweet and it's perfect.
Okay.
I love putting this in tastings because especially as we are gradually getting to higher percentages, each of these is a convenient 5% difference.
It's a great gradual
I think
difference
that
on
for
this.
people who maybe haven't had chocolate this dark, this is a really great format to taste it and you'll be surprised. So
Right.
I'm
And
excited.
Even though we're going back to Venezuela, the first one was from Merida, which is in the Andes region to the west. And then this one is more towards the central coast. And it is, like I just said, coastal region. And this is a delicious origin. It's a little bit more of, I know it sounds a little silly, but chocolatey, a little chocolatey origin. And it's a pretty popular and famous origin used in chocolate.
Awesome.
So let's cleanse our palate a little bit before we do our first one so that we can start tasting our 80.
And then let's calibrate.
Okay.
Okay.
Ooh, pepper. How do you get that in the last one?
Wow. This is already so different, and I'm really excited to...
Ready to study it?
Let's do it.
Because just that calibration was amazing. So
Yep.
we're going to put the second piece in our mouth. You're going to do the same. We're going to go on a little break, and we'll think about it. If you need more time, pause the video, and we'll see you soon. Wow,
So good.
that was so good.
Definitely less sweet than the 75%. It's amazing
Absolutely.
how big of a difference 5%
Right.
can make.
However, it's less sweet, not in the way that we're used to talking about chocolate where it's like either bitter or sweet. It's
Yeah.
less sweet in the sense of like savoriness.
Yes.
So this one tastes more like pepper.
Yep.
Like
Pepper, sesame, tahini.
oh yeah.
You're getting definitely almost some like seaweedy umami notes, which is weird, but I mean, it's kind of there.
It is there.
And then
for
you
sure.
also have a little bit of like cracker, like
Little bit of
water cracker,
water
right?
cracker.
So like a little bit of a toasty
Butter
baked
pepper,
something.
maybe with like a little bit of pepper and
Pepperiness
then
too.
maybe like a little bit of a dried sour cherry.
Yes. Yeah, there was definitely a fruity element to this one that was different than the previous two. I loved it.
A little bit of tobacco as well, like on the back. Just a little bit. Delicious.
Loved it.
So good. So
What an interesting kind of pairing.
great array.
And so different. I think that the best part about doing single origin chocolate tastings is that on the surface from the outside, you're like, I just had 3 dark chocolates. And hopefully you realize that 3 dark chocolates in the hands of small batch chocolate makers is 3 completely different products. And, you know, I love that about it, how different each of these, if you look on the back, they all have the same ingredients, cacao and organic sugar, but they're totally
so
different. And it's amazing.
It is amazing.
I love
Remember
it.
we were talking about when did I become a magician? I think we are magicians.
Yep, just a little bit. And now you guys saw a little bit behind the curtain. You see how we did it. Cut. Thank you so much for joining us for this tasting. We had a great time and we're sure that you did too. Now that you've learned a lot about craft small batch chocolate, how it's made and what makes it different, and gotten to taste that difference, you understand what makes it special. And I think that you guys can take what you've learned and continue to taste chocolate, show off to your friends, have a party, or just continue learning and expanding your own knowledge.
Absolutely. And you can also taste this chocolate with another chocolate maker so you can see the difference on how we all work so hard and curate our ingredients so well and
make something
truly unique, special, delicious, and different amongst all of ourselves. So
we hope to see you again.
Yeah. See you soon.